Welcome to the Nebraska Prep Zone podcast. I'm Stu Pospisil, Mike Patterson alongside as always. It's been an interesting week, hasn't it?
It has. Lots of sports to talk about, and that's why we're here today.
Exactly. What subject do you want to tackle first? Do you want to tackle Santee basketball, wrestling, backflips?
Any or all of the above. You're the Santee expert, so you can talk on that subject.
Santee, the Warriors right now are in the sub-district final. They're going to play at home Friday or Thursday night against Stewart, a team that they've beaten twice already. Santee never has been in the state tourney, Mike.
That's a long dry spell.
Well, yes and no. It's been 45 or 46 years since the school opened. Before that, all the Santee Sioux Nation had was kind of a normal training school up there. So one of those teams in 36 did make the state tourney, but all of those boys were from South Dakota. So it was nobody from Santee has ever played in a state tournament. It was a boarding school. And they're 14 or 15-4 now, and should they beat Stewart, they'll probably play for a state berth at home in their gym over the weekend. And they'd be the last of the 4 tribal schools to make it to state in the past 20 years.
That would be something. I just think back to some of those Winnebago teams in recent years, and boy, those fans came down in force, so I'm sure the Santee fans would do the same thing.
Well, and the tribal nations support each other too. So Santee has been down there for the David Wingett games and with Winnebago and Walt Hill when they've met a couple times. But they're hoping that their fellow, the Winnebago and the Omahas come down and support them in mass in Lincoln.
That'll be one of the fun storylines to follow here in the next few days. So,
well, let's talk about your storyline with Bridgeport.
Right, still the only undefeated team in the state, Class C1 Bridgeport. They're going to be playing in a district final Friday night. Unfortunately for Bridgeport, they'll be playing Douglas County West, which means that they're far enough away that they need to play on a neutral site, which will be in Kearney. So that's where that game will be. You would think Bridgeport will have the upper hand there, but we'll see what happens. I believe that's the only Class C1 school that has to play at a neutral site. Everyone else is playing on their home court because the schools are close enough that that's the way it is. But, it's almost, I don't know if we want to go down this road. It's almost not fair to Bridgeport that they've had such a great season and now they have to go play on a neutral court. I know Douglas County West is a long way away because I made that trip to Bridgeport a few weeks ago, and it is about almost 6 hours. It's a long drive.
Well, been there, done that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, too, because in Class B, you don't have that 180-mile provision. South Sioux's going to Scotts Bluff.
Right.
And who goes to Sidney?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I just typed those up this morning.
I know you did, and I didn't pull it off. But an Eastern team's going to go. Right. And, I mean, that's when you got the panhandle teams, you're going to have that 180 rule come into play. I mean, Bridgeport, 180 miles for them gets you maybe to Cozad or Lexington. So
right. And I know this isn't quite that distance, but Grand Island Northwest is coming in to play Skutt.
Well, that's a 2-hour drive.
Right. Not too bad.
No.
But, it's interesting that it's kind of one rule for Class B, and then for C1 on down, it's another rule. So I don't know if that'll ever change or not.
Hard to say. I think we've seen that kind of go a little bit more and a little bit more, that home team does matter. And we'll have to see.
Well, especially with Bridgeport, a team that hasn't lost all season, ranked number 1, and really they deserve to play on their home court in front of their home fans. I'm sure their fans will travel, but still, neutral site.
But a neutral site where they've played once already, because they were in the Nebraska Girls Basketball Showcase in January. and they've been the past 2 years.
Right.
So they do have a feel for what Carnage Gym is like. It's a big court with a gym that I don't think you've been out there, but very steep sides. I mean, the sight lines are great. It's a nice high school gym.
Right. I believe they beat Malcolm. Was that right?
I think so this year.
So one of the better teams from
Right.
back east. So.
How about the two girls? How about the sisters?
Yes, the sisters. What more can you say about them? I mean, one's going to Colorado, one's going to Northern Colorado. Olivia and Ruthie Loomis Goltel. They're going to be a big part of a story I'll be writing about Bridgeport and my time out there. But Ruthie's really solid inside. She's averaging about 20 a game and outstanding rebounder. Olivia, I think, has taken a step forward this year. She's a junior. She's
the Northern Colorado kid.
Right. She can drive and create things, and she can hit from the outside. So the two sisters really lead the way for Bridgeport.
And they made it to the semis last year, right?
They made it to the final last year.
That's right. Yeah.
Got beat by Hastings St. Cecilia by 2 points, and that was in Class C2 final. They're up in C1 now this year, and they haven't missed a beat moving up to C1.
Before we leave C1, talk about having 3 C1 teams in the overall top 10.
I know it's kind of interesting, just with each passing week. Well, Bridgeport still hasn't lost, so they were logical to put in there. North Bend, 3-time defending Class C1 champion. They've only lost 1 game, and that was the opener against Wahoo Newman. So I thought, they've done enough to earn a spot in that overall top 10. Now this week, Adams Central crashes the party. They've had another great season. They've only lost once too. And I really think this year that a lot of those top Class C1 teams could give several of the Class B teams and really probably a number of the Class A teams a good run for their money this year. So that's why we have 3 C1 teams in the top 10.
Well, and 2 Bs. So half the top 10 is Class A and the other half is lower class. So
right. Kind of interesting this year, but that's just kind of the way it's played out. So.
Is A after the top kind of even, but maybe a little down?
I'd say this might not be a vintage year for Class A, but there are some teams that are pretty close as far as, that upper echelon, and I'll mention our overall top 10 here in a minute, Stu, but a lot of the teams that are maybe 15-7, 15-8, 15-9, Millard West has had a good season this year. I wrote about them this week, but they lost at Westside, and Westside's only won 7 games this year, so they were able to pull that upset. So there's a little bit of unpredictability there, kind of in that middle echelon of Class A.
Okay, well, we've had a little bit of discussion back and forth, and I think the whole wrestling community has, over backflips and whether they're appropriate at state tourney or not. I'm old school. I think you win humbly and lose with grace. To me, wrestling match is part of the entire championship, and also because what happened at the state tourney finals on Saturday, 3 teams lost a team point for having a wrestler win a state title and do a backflip.
But none of those affected any of the team races, right?
Fortunately not. Now, interestingly, Millard South, which set the state tourney scoring record, 260.5 points. Their coach, in their school newspaper back in December, they asked the Common Sense paper out there, talked about this situation, and Nate Olson said, we're not going to risk it. It's a rule. He was in favor of the rule, and this is a championship coach that has won 5 in a row now.
So did the Patriots adhere to that?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
And if it had been even closer to that magic number,
right,
it could have cost them a record there.
I have a feeling if those team standings would have been close, the coaches would have warned their wrestlers, hey, we can't afford to lose a team point. So I can see both sides of it on the backflips. I mean, sportsmanship, Maybe not. Maybe it's just high schoolers celebrating. So I can see both sides of it, really.
Yeah, I don't like seeing at graduation somebody with tape on their mortar board. I mean, it's, have the decorum comes into play, and
The act like you've been there before.
act like you've been there before. Now some haven't. But again, I don't know, and I don't necessarily. Honestly, I don't like volleyball players having to meet, or basketball players meet in volleyball after a point, after a made three throw. I mean,
Yeah, that's just volleyball, though. And I mean,
I
they
know.
do it in college, so it's going to filter down to high school.
well, everything that happens in pro filters down to high schools. I mean, we're seeing that with NIL right now.
It'll be interesting to see if the NSAA
Lightens up.
revisits this, because you said your stance, and I know you got some pushback on social media from that, and our colleague Nick Rubeck kind of took the opposite stance as far as let them do the backflips, let them have their fun. So we'll see if the NSAA changes anything.
Yeah, and I mean they've got a proponent in the NSAA, the wrestling community, that does, in Ron Higdon. But I just think after last year, it got over the top. Now, I was thinking driving down here for this, maybe what we should do is let everybody do a backflip. Then it becomes blasé. And then you shudder to see what happens for their
Right.
next
Then they-
standout moment.
That's right. They're going to have to top that somehow.
There's also a liability factor, I believe, too. What happens if you slip on the mat and you seriously hurt yourself? Who's liable?
Yeah. Well, those are questions.
Those are
yet to
questions
be
the
answered.
NSAA has to answer.
Right.
So let's look at our top 10s before we wrap this one up. Bellevue West, is there a chink in the Thunderbirds' armor?
West Side almost got them.
Well, West Side playing at home is very tough.
And I saw them Friday night against Millard North, and the Mustangs were tied after 3 quarters, but then, Bellevue West really kicked it into overdrive, outscored the Mustangs 29-9 in that 4th quarter, and kind of showed what Bellevue West is made of. But after that game, then they had to turn around to play West Side, and
West Side had fresh legs because they had not played on Friday night, but still 80-78 in overtime. Jaden Jackson had to hit a 3-pointer with 10 seconds left to keep the undefeated season going for the Thunderbirds. And you wonder if Jim Simons and Westside has found maybe a method, something that other teams, maybe it's matchups, because it sounded like Westside went with a small lineup. Their center was out. They went with a small lineup and they drove past Bellevue West big men. So Doug Woodard's going to try and get that solved, but it's
Right.
What looked to be almost a slam dunk.
maybe not
might
quite.
be hanging on the rim.
Unfortunately for the other teams, I think, you mentioned Doug Woodard, longtime coach, and I'm sure they're going to they're going to look at that film and see what they did wrong on Friday night, what they did wrong on Saturday night. They're going to learn from it. So, but the fact that they had, I don't know if you want to call Friday a close call because they pulled away, but they were tied after 3 quarters. And what almost happened Saturday, I think it gives some of these other teams at least some hope as far as, hey, maybe this team isn't invincible this year.
I don't necessarily see Bellevue West losing either of its district games because they're going to be playing the number 28 and number 29 winner on Saturday. Then they come back Monday and play the 14-15, which I think Omaha Central is the home team in the 14 spot. So
Which even if the totally unexpected might happen, they would snag the one wild.
exactly, yeah, they're locked in as the top seed for state tourney, regardless of what district does.
Right.
So
If that 28-29 winner gets them.
it's Grand Island or Benson.
Okay.
I mean,
Your alma
I
mater.
love my bunnies, but first they'd have to get past Grand Island, and
Yeah.
I don't put much stock in.
At least they have more than 5 players on their team.
So we think so.
That's the Benson girls.
Yes,
Five
we play
girls.
on Wednesday night
Right.
against Lincoln High.
I think it's Northeast.
Is it North? It is at Northeast.
Yeah.
Yep.
still, a lot of credit to those Benson girls for getting to the end of the season. And I mean, all it would have taken was one of the 5 to
Get hurt.
anything,
Yeah.
hurt, discipline, anything could have just blown up the season. So credit.
I did
credit
hear
to
they
those
finished
5.
with 4 the other night. So fouls.
So they
are-
start with 5.
They start with 5. That's what's
and
necessary.
they have to finish with at least 2.
So, in the top 10 going into the postseason, Westside actually moved up a spot to 5. It's Bellevue West, followed by Creighton Prep, Millard North, Gretna, Westside, the top 5. Lincoln East, Lincoln Southwest, Elkhorn South, and 2 new teams, Papio South, which beat Lincoln East, and Lincoln Southeast comes back in the 9 and 10 spots. Class B, Omaha Skutt holds the fort at number 1 in Class C1. Wahoo's number 1. They have a Thursday home game against number 3 Ashland Greenwood. Both teams will be host teams in the district final round. In C2, you got number 1 Donovan Trumbull and number 3 Amherst. They're playing on Thursday night. They're going to both be in the host teams for the district final round. And D1, Thursday night, number 1 North Platte St. Pat's, number 2 Maywood Hayes Center. Again, they're both going to be host teams for the next round. And then in D2, another Thursday night special. Lincoln Parkview, number 1. Osceola, number 3. Again, both teams should be hosting district finals. But again, momentum but we've seen teams lose in the sub-district, come back,
Right.
and just it was one little blip. So
True.
see what happens. How about on your side with girls?
Well, let's run down our overall top 10 quickly. Number 1 remains Millard South. Number 2, Omaha Skutt. Number 3, Elkhorn North. Number 4, Millard North. Number 5, Lincoln High. Number 6, Bellevue East. Number 7, Bellevue West. Number 8, here we go with the C1 run. Number 8, Bridgeport. Number 9, North Bend. And number 10, Adams Central. Number 1 in all the classes, Millard South in A, Skutt in B, Bridgeport in C1. We have a new number 1 this week in C2. Pender moves up to number 1. Crofton was defeated in sub-districts by Ponca. So Pender moved up, Ponca 2, and Crofton is now 3.
Okay.
Class D1, we have another new number 1, Centura. I believe they'd lost to Ravenna a couple times earlier this year, but they got Ravenna in sub-districts, so Centura moves to number 1, and Ravenna is now number 2. And number 1 in Class D2 remains our friends down in Falls City.
Yes.
Sacred Heart. They've been number 1 for a good portion of the season, and looks like another great season down there for the Irish.
They just churn them out down there, both boys and girls. So that'll do it for this edition of the Nebraska Prep Zone podcast. Join us early next week when Mike and I will preview the girls' state tourney. For Mike, I'm Stu Pospisil, and we'll see you next time.